Welcome back to Let Me Mind My Business, the podcast for the real nosy bitches who like to pretend they're not nosy bitches. I'm your host, Sidoni Francis. Let's talk some shit, baby. Okay, today we are joined by Kiana Brooks. I am so excited for this. I've known Kiana for like 6 years, and I finally have the privilege of having her on my podcast, which is so exciting. So, a quick little intro on Kiana. She's a luxury fashion buyer and digital creator. The TLDR, she's that girl. Like, I really don't know how else to describe who Kiana is and what she does. Luxury fashion merchandiser and creative. She moved to New York at 16, which is insane, with big dreams and even bigger style, and has not slowed down since. From Gucci to Dior to Chanel, she's made her mark behind the scenes in luxury fashion while staying unapologetically herself. So welcome, Kiana.
Thank you. That's so
I'm
sweet.
happy to have you here. Oh my God. This is like such a long time coming.
Such a long time
I'm
coming.
excited.
I'm
Kiana's always busy, y'all. Every time I try to book her for this podcast, she's like, I'm in Paris, I'm in Florence. And I'm just like, oh, I'm in Brooklyn.
I do feel like I need someone else to pay my rent at the current moment because I'm never here. But, I'm happy that I was here this time.
It's all right. We're just having fun. We're having fun with it at this point. All right. So let's get into it, my girl. Okay,
Yes.
So you might be the only person who isn't from New York who, when someone is like, if they call themselves a New Yorker, I wouldn't immediately scream. I wouldn't immediately scream. Okay. So you moved to New York at 16.
Yes.
Which is crazy, to pursue a career in fashion. Take me back to like the decision making of being a 15-year-old in Atlanta, being a senior in high school at 15, and telling your parents, hey, I want to move to New York to like pursue this fashion career.
Yeah. Honestly, it was a long time coming. So I had been preparing my parents for a while, even before I was 15. I think when I was 11, I got gifted a fashion book of careers from Teen Vogue.
Oh my God.
And, I'd always loved styling. I was always playing dress up as a kid, just, over the top drama, playing my mom's makeup, the whole thing.
Felt.
And yeah.
Bad bitches are not, they don't spawn. They're built.
I had like the boa, like, walking around
Yeah.
the house and the little plastic flip-flop heels. Like I was ready.
Twin?
Yeah. And, when someone got me that book, I was like, oh, okay, like, the main things that stood out were editor, to work in fashion journalism, and then this career called buying. And I had no idea what that meant, but in the way the book described it, it was like, you travel the world and you shop. And I was like,
I like that.
I said, you know what? That sounds nice. And in the back of the book, there was colleges, telling you where to go to do those things. And at the top was the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. And I was genuinely like 11 or 12. And I said, okay, great. That's what I'm going to do. And I wrote it down on a sticky note. And I remember telling my parents, and I was like, okay, so just FYI, I'm going to do this. And everyone's going to be on board. And so
that's hilarious.
I like literally every single year was working toward it. And they were like, wow, you really want to do this still. And, by the time senior year came around, they made me apply to all of these different colleges. And
I know they were looking like, UGA is perfectly fine.
No. They were like, my mom especially, she was like, are you sure you don't want to study business? Just broadly, and I was like, no, I think I'm going to do what I said I was going to do and study fashion. So by the time I got into FIT, I was like, I'm going.
Shit. I did not have any type of drive like that. 16-year-old me was looking at colleges. I was like, you know what? Somewhere fun with lots of parties and like, if it could be free, that could be great. And it was like Vanderbilt, boom. Like,
oh
that
my
was
God.
literally it. Like, I was like, nothing career-wise was even in my head.
Well, you definitely hit the jackpot. Like,
oh no, literally, thank God. Because imagine me spending $300,000 to make a podcast. My mother would be like, girl, who's paying this loan? Ridiculous. Okay, so you're in the city at 16, and you like, in the 6 years that I've known you at this point, you've been a diehard Manhattan girl. It's only recently that you've gotten up and moved to Brooklyn. Like, it's only recently. And I know that is like in itself an insane thing. But you come here so young. I feel like growing up here, all this shit is like super normal to me. I'm like, oh yeah, like this crackhead who lives down the block, like he's great, like, yeah, this 24-hour train thing. What was like the biggest culture shock you had moving to the city? Especially because you were coming here like, you weren't technically like an adult. So
No.
there's so much you couldn't do.
No, I was not at all an adult. And I think the biggest shock was how unprepared I was.
Yeah.
I had spent some time over the summers in New York leading into coming to college, and I was so sure that I loved it and I was obsessed and I was ready to hit the ground running. And then when I moved into my college dorms in Chelsea, and this is not like cute Chelsea. This is
Yeah,
like this was pre Moynihan Train Hall. This is the post office, okay?
Yeah.
And we were around the corner and moved into those dorms, and I developed such extreme anxiety. I was just like such a mess. And my saving grace was that my roommate was also from out of state. And we were just a ball of nerves together. And every day for like the first week, we would walk down to the water on the
Yeah.
pier on the west side. And
And
we
that's
were
when the pier was
oh,
that was sticky.
yeah,
Sticky
I
back
mean,
then.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
But to us, that was like, oh, we're out of the chaos of
yeah.
Manhattan, and just we were like, we're gonna have to make this work because I already told everyone and their mother
I feel that.
for years that this is what I was gonna do.
I feel that.
And so I was like, well, we're going to have to figure something out. And slowly, I started to get more comfortable, but it took a lot longer than I thought. I thought like, 16-year-old me, I was like,
You thought
I
you were
can
just gonna like run the city, be
it,
like Anne Hathaway and Double Horse Product.
totally like I came in and I was like, you know who was my actual inspo was Kiki Palmer, True Jackson VP. I was like, I'm going to be like a 15-year-old CEO of a company and it's going to be great and everyone's going to love
Yeah.
me.
Meanwhile, you're here, like, oh my god, this
No.
crackhead just chased me. Like,
And honestly, that type of stuff didn't even faze me. It was more so just the fact that like the other people and how grown up everyone else
yeah.
seemed, to your point, like the people who had been in New York
Yeah.
longer. I was a kid. I was a
No, I hear you.
baby.
I always tell people, I'm like, growing up in New York, I was like 16 physically, but in my mind, I was like 35, like for sure. Like I'm 26 now, and I'm just like, yeah, like I feel very grown. Like I've been grown for like 15 years. at
No,
this
by
point.
the end of college, I was like, nah,
Yeah.
like I can't talk to anyone from high school. Like no, not even
Literally.
like that. It was just had lived such a
No, the
different
city
4
forces
years.
you to like grow up. You get so hyper independent
Yeah.
when you like come here young.
Yeah.
Like it's really ridiculous. You might be the only non-Green Metro card holder who I would give their credit. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about your career. So one, luxury fashion in itself is insane. Like, big up my girl. Okay, big up my girl. But I was recently reading this book called Token Black Girl by Danielle Prescott, and she talks a lot about how, as a Black woman in the luxury fashion industry, she was really like in this endless cycle of trying to get noticed for good work, but also being hyper aware of like herself in the office because she was the only Black person there or one of the few Black people there.
Mm.
When you think about your career, is this something that like you feel applies to you? Is this something that you feel, as you've gone through what is now like 5 or 6 years of like realistically working your way up to being damn near senior leader in the industry?
Mm.
How does that touch you? How does that affect you?
It's hard. It's definitely affects me. There are so few Black people
Yeah.
in luxury fashion and Black women especially. And it was really hard when I started. I think it was almost a moment that reminded me of coming to New York for the first time, because I was
That's
like,
anxiety, babe.
no, but well, luckily I had coping mechanisms by that point, but more so in the sense of, just being shocked at a new
Yeah.
environment. I had been interning all through college. So again, when I graduated, got my big girl job, I was working at Gucci luxury fashion. I was like, I got this. I
Yeah.
was like, this is what I was going to do the whole time.
Mhm.
And so when I started and then realized that I was not, running the show,
Yeah.
I was in for a very rude awakening. And I think that my Blackness and my Black identity, coupled with the fact that I was so young compared to everyone else in the office, just doubled the, intimidation aspect and this othering of, who I was at work. And, it didn't slow me down in the sense of how motivated I was to prove myself and to make an impact, but it made it a lot harder because at that time I didn't have all the self-awareness I needed to learn how to navigate the corporate
Yeah.
space and kind of, pick up on the passive aggressive comments and learn how to, deal with microaggressions. I didn't know any of that. So I was just, bulldozing ahead. Yeah, I was excited. I was like, this is my full self. Now they say bring your full self to work. And I'm
I
like,
don't know about all that. I still don't know about all that.
and I was bringing my full self to work and it was too much. So, I think definitely now I've learned to incorporate some more of like my personal passions and things into my work. But originally when I first started, it was very much an isolating experience.
So I want to talk a little bit about mentorship. Something I've noticed with you, you are so big on it. Like you're always willing to answer someone's questions, but you're also like very well connected, in doing this. I see you work a lot with, what is it, Bragg, like the Black
Yeah.
Retail Action Group. How has mentorship really helped shape your career? Because I feel like when I scroll on LinkedIn, there goes Kiana. Kiana's like
And
shouting
I see
something
you
out.
too. I
Period.
see you
Take
too.
Kiana is speaking somewhere. She's doing something. She's judging something. Like she's doing something there. And I think in this industry that's like so white,
Yeah.
so just like very legacy. Like all the people I know who work in luxury fashion outside of you are like the wealthiest of the wealthiest white women who
Yeah.
were just like, yeah, I want to work here and like, my daddy can help me get this job or something like that. Meanwhile, like you're very much someone who like got it out the mud.
Mm.
So I feel like when I think about your career, I'm sure like there has to be someone who came before you, kind of like took you under their wing. How did you kind of get to the point where one, you're able to accept the mentorship, but two, are able to be someone's mentor now? Because like there are tons of people who hit me up and they're like, I want to work in fashion. I'm like, baby, just go hit Kiana. I can't help you. I can't help you. Go talk to her. Like I can't help you at all. Like
Yeah. No, I mean, this concept of mentorship was kind of thrown at me and like I didn't really know what it meant. My parents didn't work in corporate America and they never really had like a mentor. And so I never heard that term, growing up. And then I moved to New York and everyone's like, get a mentor, find a mentor to like guide
literally.
you. And I was
You're
like,
like, how do I find this person?
yeah,
Like, do I just ask them?
I didn't
Like,
know anyone who worked in fashion. I didn't know anything. And so honestly, for me, mentorship came first in the form of like peer mentorship.
yeah.
Unlike most colleges at FIT, everyone's studying fashion.
Yeah.
And so you have a whole school of people who want to work in the exact same field.
Mhm.
And that was a really rare opportunity to not just make friends, but also build contacts that can help expand your own network. And so it was definitely hard at first because the girls were girling, but,
If I think there's like a sorority, like when I walk,
yeah.
I'm like, damn.
I know people ask me if I was in a sorority. I'm like, I went just the college
I went to
itself.
all women's college.
Yeah,
That's where it's
exactly.
at.
But so having that peer mentorship aspect developed first, I was so inspired by those around me that kind of helped pave a way of like we were learning from each other's mistakes.
Yeah.
Like someone was like, okay, girl, like I just did this at my internship. Like this is what I did, helping each other out until eventually I was in the room with senior leaders where I could actually have a mentor. And I think I got really fortunate where most of my bosses at my internships acted as like mentors in that period of time and took interest in me and let me, contribute as much as I wanted to, which was great. And yeah, now I really do try to reach back, and I talk to college students all the time.
Oh, girl,
I go to
see you.
FIT all the time.
I was like, you're damn near on the board at this point.
I'm like, if anyone who is Black wants to work in fashion, I got you. Anyone else, you can.
If y'all
in
didn't know,
after.
like 6 months ago, I texted Kiana. I said, hey, I think I might do like a post MBA luxury fashion stint. And she was like, okay, well, do this. I was like, oh. I was like, oh, girl, okay. I didn't realize there's this many numbers in luxury fashion. Imagine my shock when I went on the interview. They were asking me some very deep, intense Excel work. I said, all right, well, you have fun with that.
Yeah, you said, I'm going to Silicon Valley. I'll see you later.
Literally, like, I'll see y'all later. Thank you so much. But to pivot a little bit, a lot of the people don't know this. There was a moment where you were like, I'm going to go to business school. If you guys don't know, like 2 years ago when I was applying, Kiana and I were in the same MLT class. We had the same coach. And then one day Kiana just stopped showing up, y'all. Like, she said, nope.
I literally just
She was like, this
going.
is not going to work. I feel like a lot of folks, especially now, like at Columbia, we have like a whole retail club. There's so many people who are like, I want to work in fashion. They see the MBA as like the way to pivot into this buying role or the strategy role and doing these things, You decided not to do that. You were very clear about it. What led you to that decision where you were like, I can figure this out without going to graduate school?
Yeah. I think what initially piqued my interest with going to business school was the fact that I had been so singularly surrounded by fashion.
Yeah.
From college to every job I ever had. So I was, thinking about expanding my career and how surrounding myself with people in other industries could benefit me. And I think that still is the most appealing aspect of it. But I think as we started going to those MLT classes, as I started studying for that GMAT trial, Sidoni knows.
Man, when I catch you, bitch. Like, oh
I self-studied because I didn't want to spend any money on it yet. And let me tell you, you got to spend money because self-studying was not studying.
Self-studying. I used to leave the testing crying. I used to be like, am I stupid?
I literally said, oh, I can't do kindergarten math. Got it.
No, literally. You feel so dumb. You're like, damn.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think what ended up shifting my perspective was honestly talking to everyone else and seeing how much they were looking to, pivot or truly expand their skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like through my job and through my career, I was building the skill set that I would need to achieve, what I want in the business side of fashion. And so when I took a step back, I was like, as such a connected person in New York, in the sense of that I've been here for a long time and know a lot of people, I was like, do I really need to pay all of this money for either getting into business school or business school itself just to continue expanding my network, as opposed to the skill set side? Not that I have no skills I could learn, but in terms of my industry, it's not traditionally valued in the same way that it is, like an MBA isn't traditionally valued in the same way that it is for a lot of other industries.
You're not trying to be a consultant, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of the people who I know who are like, I want to work in luxury retail, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a 2-year stint in consulting, and then I'm going to go get like a strategy role at a fashion company. It's like, okay, yeah, then you got to get the consulting job, then you got to be on a retail team to even be qualified enough for like a Dior to want to have you.
They love to tell you to go work in a store.
They do.
I was just like, in all of that time, I could just work my way up in the job that I worked so hard
just
to
have your
get.
hand out and ask.
Yeah. And so, I just told myself that I, for now at least, was going to prioritize continuing to build until I felt stinted in a way where it was like, if there was an end all be all of like, oh, I'm not growing. Oh, I feel so stuck, then maybe, but there was no need to take myself out of this upward trajectory I'm on to go to business school.
That's super, super valid shit. I was at home making videos.
I know.
Well, school it is. I was like,
you were really bored. You were
I was. It was like, I got to the point where I was like, okay, like, this could be fun. Like,
which is such a flex. You were like, I'm just going to go to Columbia Business School.
Literally. And I'm going to have them pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, all the time. All the time. Okay, so with this like upward trajectory, you're building, you're grinding. What is like the dream job that Kiana Brooks wants to have? Like, because when I think about you, literally, it's so funny. I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, yeah, like give it like 5 or 6 years. Like Kiana's gonna leave her company. She's probably gonna end up starting something. I was like, she's gonna be like this very fabulous like person in this fashion industry, like maybe like a fashion AI startup or something. Like, so what are you thinking? What are you thinking is like the thing that makes Kiana Brooks the household name?
I love this question. I have to say, you have always like believed in me down, and I truly stand. I like speak so highly of you because I'm like you really rep down.
It's very easy to believe in somebody who's qualified. Like it's very easy to do that.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think it's crazy because I always say this is as far as my dreaming and planning got.
Oh, wow.
I thought I want to be a buyer in luxury fashion and I want to travel the world and have access to product, have access to all of these things. And that was what I wanted. And I, especially growing up in Atlanta with, again, parents who worked outside of the corporate space, and I in medicine, and I saw working as the goal, right? And it's not until you move to New York, I think New Yorkers take it for granted, but it's not until I moved to New York that I was like, oh, the real goal is having enough money that you don't need to work.
Yeah.
I was always like, as long as I have a great job that I love, I'm set. And, now that I have that job that I set out to get and I worked so hard for, now I'm like, okay, how do I get to the lifestyle that I actually am envisioning? And so I think, to your point, I really want to continue to build my foundation in these luxury brands. But at the end of the day, my goal is to have an impact in this space in a way that feels more authentic to me. And that is able to contribute outside of just a singular brand per se, or just on a larger platform within a brand. And so I think I'm super open-minded to what ideas I'm going to have, who I can collaborate with, but I definitely want to do big things and keep traveling and growing.
I love that. Well, as you mentioned, authenticity, you have really been, I would say this past year, Baby, I mean a whole new Kiana. I've known Kiana for a very, very long time. Okay. So you recently hard launched your
Mhm.
girlfriend Nia, who is in the studio with us. She's gonna join us in a little bit, you guys. And girl, you are in love. Like, oh my God. Like I've never seen you like this. Like you are giddy. You're like, you call me, she called me. She's like, can Nia come? I was like, yeah, why wouldn't she be able to? Like, it's fine, no problem.
I'm teasing so hard.
No, like that's your baby. Stand on your baddie. I know that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, she's so cute.
So obviously, Black woman in this like very like rigid space, like, you know, Southern background. And you're just like, hey y'all, I like girls. This is the vibe. Like, what's going on? Talk to me a little bit about the courage to kind of like, I don't want to say come out, because I remember it so hilariously. We were at Dumbo House like 2 years ago, and she was like, yeah, I went on a date with this girl. And I was like, oh. And it just went right back to the conversation. It's like, okay, thank you for sharing that with me. So I don't even want to call it a coming out or say more so like a stepping out, just like existing, in your own space. Like what kind of gave you the courage where you're like, fuck it, like I'm out here?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because I do think I was very intentional, especially in New York, which felt like my home. It felt like my safe place. And I was very intentional. And I've talked to a lot of friends about this, about how the language I used when I started dating women. And, I didn't create a space for people to stop and gawk or to, make it into something that I wasn't prepared for it to be. And I was very clear with everyone that I was like, this is just something that I'm doing. It's something that I was not surprised at arriving at. I was just kind of like, okay, we're here and this is something I'm exploring and next, and I thought that was really empowering for myself. Coming from that background, not growing up around gay people, not understanding bisexuality, not understanding queerness, and then being able to empower myself to say, hey, like you are allowed to explore, you are allowed to be curious, you can do whatever you want. And I had so many people look at me and tell me that, oh, like you're play gay or you're pretend or have fun with this phase or blah blah blah. And I was like, the jokes are on y'all because
look at me,
I'm in love. And it's just like I feel
like you're about to jump on a couch, girl.
I'm just like I think it was just always so ironic to me that people try to pick apart so many aspects of like people's identities and especially sexual identity. And I think for me, I just had to stand 10 toes down on myself and like make that clear for everyone else so that eventually it circled back. And I wish it was that simple in all the aspects of my life, but at least within New York and within my peer space, that stepping out into my identity was the smoothest because we're used to gay people in New York.
Yeah,
we have no shortage.
We don't care.
And I think, especially being in like a fashion industry, even though there were hiccups, I think, I was widely in an accepted space.
Yeah. Well, let's bring Nia in.
Hi, baby. Hi.
I love you guys. This is so cute. One fabulous, beautiful couple. Like gorgeous, gorgeous couple. So I want to talk a little bit about just like getting together, building this life. Like you guys are very clearly like deeply attuned. It's giving twin, realistically, at this point. When you guys are thinking about your relationship and thinking about stepping out authentically as yourselves, like what's top of mind for you as you're like, okay, like I'm walking through life. I know you said like you were just like, fuck it, I can do what I want. Obviously, you've been in a mix, girl. It's a little different. So, how are you guys, as you're moving through your spaces, saying like, okay, I am myself, this is who I am. Like, how are you controlling all of the different aspects of your identity?
She has let me be so much more authentic. And I would say it's one of your absolute top, like most redeeming qualities is that Nia.
I love. This is so, oh my God. Need to find me a man child.
But she is so authentically herself. Like like in our circles, whether it's fashion or just like, our peer circles, it's authenticity is not a guarantee.
It's not.
And I think, especially when, like Nia's fly, she's cool. She, she knows the girls, but I was just like so surprised at how, and I think you were also surprised with me, but I'll let you say that all the
time.
But how genuine we both were and how we were just like, when it was us, it's always just us. And I think even as we now like start to do more content and start to like, put ourselves out there more, we go home and we are just like the silliest, goofiest, like just regular people. And I think that you keep me authentic because if you don't want to do something, you like it's very apparent. You're very, direct. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it is. It's like I think for me, it's been like my parents have always given me the space to just be me. They're like, you don't have to be anything else. You can just do what you want to do, have fun. And I think when I finally decided to date girls, one, nobody was surprised.
The closet was glass.
No one was surprised at all. But I kind of just let it be what it was. I didn't let anyone put a name to what I was doing or who I was seeing. And like, even now with me posting more on the internet about it, I'm getting a lot more questions and I'm like, I have no answers. Like, this is just what it is. But yeah, I think we just both show up like who we are, have fun, do what we do. And I think that's been the fun thing about like even just opening up online is that we're not doing anything we don't want to do. We're not like forcing it. Yeah. This is just like genuinely who we are in person. Like you're just going to see that. And I think it reflects to like whatever we do. It's just like, okay, what do you want to do today?
Yeah.
And that's really how we live our life.
Yeah. That is so cute. I love that. So Kiana, you have this very viral TikTok that I love so much, where you're talking about how since it's two women in a relationship, a lot of the things that are traditionally done by the man of like asking someone to be your partner, asking someone to like commit to you, you guys had never really done. So you were like in a relationship, but had never really like made it official. Talk me through that a little bit, because I watched that video and I was like, oh wow, that's something I've never actually thought about. And I will say that's one thing I love about what you guys are posting, because it's giving me like this entirely new perspective on something that I swore I was like super knowledgeable on as like, a girl from New York who like, is kind of creative. And I'm like, I saw that, I said, oh wait, like there's like a whole new layer of like heteronormativity that gets stripped away when like that is not the case. So like talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think
I didn't know she was going to do that, by the way.
It was cute. You were surprised.
I was. And I was like super sick, just got off a 12-hour flight. I'm like, okay, nice.
Yeah, she was so happy. You're calm. Yeah, no, I think this too, as I have always been a simp. Like I have always been a lover girl. Always. Like in my core, I love to give and to care and to go the extra mile. And so I think that doesn't change when I'm dating women, and it's still where I feel the most natural, especially when I have like the world's most amazing partner. And so I think when you're thinking about these things, a lot of times when you date, I'll speak for myself, but a lot of times when I was dating men, you feel like there might be something you want to do.
Yeah, you're just kind of waiting.
But you're just like, I'm going to let them do it because society, and it's valid because they're operating in the same society.
I don't ever want them to thinking I'm pushing them to do shit.
Yeah, like you can't just operate as if we don't live in a heteronormative society. As much as I would always say, oh, I love to give my man this, I love to do blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work out.
It doesn't end. What are you talking about?
Okay, listen, it was a struggle. It's okay. Look. But all to say that those like kind of societal boundaries are taken away when you're dating a woman, because there are no rules. There's no like, oh, she's supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. There's nothing we have to play by. Yeah. So if I want to buy her something, I buy her. If I want to ask her to be my girlfriend, I ask her to be my girlfriend. If I want to tell you I love you, there's nothing that I have to wait for. And so I think operating that way is like more fun because we just get to act off of instinct. We just
I love how carefree this is. Like this is how I know it's so funny. Like this is how I know sexuality is not a choice. Because I would love to have a dynamic where like I'm so in love and we're having this great vibe. And it's like, unfortunately, I like men. So it's such a pain.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. Spend an hour with this one, and she will give you pros and cons.
Maybe people come up to us and ask us questions, and I'm like, well, I mean, have you thought about it? I mean,
barely.
I'm not gonna say
maybe I might have to investigate. I and Destiny, if you're ever single, hit me up. You just my type.
You might find like a bestie.
Just don't let her on the show.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nia. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, girls. No, that's hilarious. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about this. I'm like, maybe the love of my life is a woman. Maybe that would make sense why I hate these niggas. Like
it all makes sense.
It would make so much sense. All right, so something I really love about you is like you've really redefined your life. Like you've redefined the metric of success, I would say from like 2019 to now.
Mm.
So for a 26-year-old Kiana that's sitting in this room right now, what does success look like to you? Like, what is the thing that you're measuring by at this point, if you even are measuring anymore?
Yeah, it's interesting because I went on a trip recently, a few months ago, to Brazil with my friend.
Fabulous.
Oh, it was amazing. And we had it was, 4 Black women, and we had a really authentic conversation where I said, we all said, what do we need from each other? And I said, speak happiness over me.
Mm.
Because I think at the time, and still I was dealing with a lot of external, just anxiety points where people don't necessarily understand our lifestyle or, view success in a very linear way. And so I said, speak happiness over me. It sounds like our grandma, like we always talk about our
like, pray
prayer
for
warrior
me.
grandma, but like, yeah, pray for me. And like, I think that um, having to walk in a path that like you had no example of
Yeah.
is scary. And it's, now success for me. I'm like, what is this? What is the end goal now? Because I had no vision board of what
Yeah.
being in a successful gay relationship looks like, or how to bring children to sort of all of these things that are now like the top of my mind of how I want to live in my truth and like build happiness. I need everyone around me to like to help
Everybody
me
gotta
get
root for
there.
you.
Yeah. And so I think now like success for me is just like being happy, having, fun while also continuing to grow my career. And it's not one without the other. I think before I was very much like, we're in New York. We're like career girlies. We're like, we're gonna have it all, do it by yourself if
I
you
think
have
that's a
to.
detriment, honestly. Like, I really started thinking about this. The idea of like having it all, at some point something has to suffer. So if you go into it and you're like, I want it all, whether it's your career or your family or relationship, like something will not be at 100%. I think it's okay to take time to like pour into one thing at a time and be like, okay, yeah, like right now it's career, then it's relationship, then it's, health and wellness, whatever. I think when we try to do too much, you just crash and burn, unfortunately.
Totally. I mean, Nia and I talk about it all the time because we say, my family's Caribbean and her family's from Cape Verde. And I think, we were talking about how we could really just the simple life
Literally,
that
I could really just go be on a farm in Guyana.
I mean, like,
Enjoying myself.
we choose this. Like
Like,
we
I
are
chose to
actively
come to this.
choosing
Like-
to contribute to society.
Yeah.
And I think that is a choice we make consciously. And I think one that doesn't have to be as much of a pressure as we thought it was.
Oh.
And so I think now my success is a little bit less tied to, sounds cliche, but like those materialistic checkpoints. I still want all the things, don't get me wrong. But I think now it's more about the balance and how I can, have happiness on all ends.
Well, to close this out, my last official question for you before we get into our closer. Since you've been here for 10 years, what is one piece of advice you would give your 16-year-old self before she hopped on that plane in New York?
Ooh. Okay, a piece of advice for 16-year-old Kiana. It's gonna take time, but don't let up. I think we have been standing on their necks. I've been standing on people's necks since I got here.
Put on it.
I have been,
Like-
I have been, so motivated, so passionate, and just really wanting to contribute as much as possible. And as much as that, comes with external judgments and pressures, and that got me to where I am right now. And I think you compare what I've done to the trajectories of some other people, and it's like, it is so evident how much work I have poured into, into New York. And I think 16-year-old me is the one who wanted to do all those things. And so there were a lot of times where people tried to take me off of that path, slow me down, tell me to just enjoy it. And like, I wish I could just go back and tell myself that like what you're doing, like it's working. This is like true to yourself, and like keep going, because look at where she got me. Like life is good. Life is sweet.
I love that. Okay, so we do a little segment on this podcast called What I'm Minding My Business On. So pretty much you give your hot take and then you close it out and you're like, but let me mind my business. Your hot take on anything in the world, Kiana. What are you minding your business on?
What am I minding my business on? A quick one would be those Met Gala looks. I'm going to mind my business on. A more intentional one might be, and this is something I talk about all the time, is how people show up or don't show up for those within their community.
Mhm.
And like we said, pouring into each other and building each other up. I think there's so much competitiveness that
I
happens.
just went through something crazy.
And
I hate finding out a friend hates you. Like, it's the worst.
I mean, can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
It's like,
girl, I can't imagine. I've been there.
and I just think so. Yeah, I have so much to say about how this industry operates off of greed and selfishness, but I'm gonna mind my business.
Period. Well, where can the people find you, Kiana? And Nia?
Yes. Please follow me on TikTok at my friends call me KB, or on Instagram at Kiana Brooks _. They're different because I work a corporate job.
That's right.
Or on LinkedIn at my name, Kiana Brooks.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.